Last year, I made Rachel's special Thanksgiving trifle from Friends, and depending on who you listen to,
It's really powered through it. It's not half bad.
it went about as well as it could have. And this year I wanted to do something to mark the occasion again. Meanwhile, all of the Christmas sandwiches have started popping up all over the place, and unsurprisingly, I have opinions. A few years ago, when we were in lockdown with nothing better to do, I tried them all, and Tesco's were top. Sainsbury's, largely fine. And I usually don't go with the Pret, they're far too profligate with their rocket, but they had this turkey feast situation that was unreal. Anyway, I was thrilled to see them pop up again this year. I whacked them on my stories, and it was Reb Day, in fact, who replied to me saying, please will you make the Christmas sandwich from Friends? And when you're given a challenge like that. Now, Ross's sandwich is a Thanksgiving leftover sandwich, which implies the existence of a Thanksgiving. Now, I'm British, we don't do that. I do like the idea of hosting a Thanksgiving feast. Mainly, I just like the idea of a feast. I like cooking for people. I'm not really a settling down type of person. Children, families, not my thing. The only thing that ever sways me, even momentarily, into the settling down realm is the idea of holidays and festive events and creating traditions. And then I think about it a little further and I think, well, I can sort of do that anyway by having people come to me with their families and then they can go away again, and I don't have to be responsible for another human being for 18 years plus change. So yeah, don't have any leftovers. This is but a trifling issue. In fact, very easily solved by making the component parts of a Thanksgiving dinner. For research purposes, I've looked at what goes into a Thanksgiving dinner, and it's a bit extra, and I don't see all of it making it into the sandwich anyway. Nigella has this recipe for like sweet potatoes covered in marshmallows, and I'm gonna go ahead and say no. Evan made this green bean casserole thing once, which was frankly delicious, but I don't see having a place on this sandwich. Maybe next year. Cranberry sauce, yes. Stuffing, yes. Meat, naturally. Mashed potatoes, I'm not sure. And then obviously the crucial ingredient, anywhere, but specifically for this sandwich, is gravy. Now there is actually a Friends cookbook that might give us some clues, so I'm gonna nip to a bookshop and see what they have to say about things. And then probably not follow it at all. All right, let me go and get the ingredients, and in the meantime, why don't you pop on a sort of Thanksgiving episode of Friends and wait for me to come back. Oh, sorry, what's that? Friends isn't available on a streaming service at your location? Well, that sounds like an issue for sponsorship, Dan. You're absolutely right, main video Dan. This week's video is sponsored by Surfshark. Surfshark is a virtual private network that keeps your online identity safe by protecting your data, which is very kind of them. It also allows you to change your virtual location so you can browse the web from a different country without having to leave your bed cave, which, as you can tell from my voice, is where I've been for the past 24 hours. The best part of this is that you can access and unblock content libraries from around the world. So if you're across the pond and you want to watch shows that are region locked to the UK, like anything on iPlayer for instance, with just a few clicks of a button you can end up on these fair British Isles and watch away. Surfshark also encrypts your online data and helps to secure your personal information while you browse with public Wi-Fi. And further, it does not monitor, track, or store what you do online, and you can use one account on an unlimited number of devices. If you fancy giving it a go, I have an exclusive deal for you. Just use the code DanielJ at the link in the description for up to 6 additional months for free. Over the past couple of years, I ended up traveling quite a bit, and I've used Surfshark to keep up to date with my silly little programs, so I highly recommend. Thanks again to Surfshark for sponsoring, and I'm going to head you straight back on over to Main Video Dan. How's it looking, Main Video Dan? So, the plan. The plan was to go to the various shops and pick up the little bits that I needed for the purpose of making the sandwich. And I decided that I would shop hop, as it were. I usually shop for 1 or 2, so I'm more than happy to go to a few different supermarkets to make sure I'm getting the best deal. For instance, a couple of years ago, I knew for a fact that there were 3 shops on my high street, and in Waitrose, their essentials toilet paper was softer and cheaper than the basics one in Tesco. So if I needed to pick up a couple of things, I'd buy like a handful of stuff from the Sainsbury's, a handful of stuff from the Tesco's, and a handful of stuff from the Waitroses, because I knew each of them had various different deals or offers or just lower prices in general on different products. You're smart, you gotta hustle. If you wanna beat the system, so I was gonna do that. And the plan was to get one of them little turkey joint things that I could just chuck in. Because I thought not only will it be smaller, it will also be simpler than figuring out how to make an entire turkey. Or even an entire turkey crown. So I went into M&S, and I got overwhelmed. I just don't often go there, so I didn't really know where anything was, but everyone else around me did. So I was there for about 3 minutes before I went, do you know what? I'll come back when I want some biscuits in a tin. And they make a good mince pie in M&S. So they did have like a filleted turkey breast and a turkey breast steak, and I thought, well, I guess I could just do that. But I went, no, I bet they've got something somewhere else. So then I went to Sainsbury's, and well, slim pickings. Either there is a very American contingent in my little corner of northwest London, or people are doing their Christmas shopping early. I don't know which one it is. Look at those prices. I absolutely cannot. I genuinely didn't think it was going to cost that much for a little bit of turkey. I went to the frozen section and the prices were a little bit less, still not cheap. And that's when I sort of thought about it and realised, well, if I'm going to make all of that food, just for a sandwich, not only does that feel a bit excessive in terms of cost, am I gonna find use for all that extra meat? And I didn't feel comfortable with it. I can't afford it, cost of living, it's a whole thing, sod it. Because then I realised, you don't care about the meat. None of us care about what meat goes in the sandwich. Half of you are probably vegan. Usually when I make a roast dinner, it's a chicken. At Christmas time, I'll do a ham of some form. Or more likely, like one of them Quorn joint things. And let me tell you, those Quorn things, a slice of it cold with some whole grain mustard on it. Oh, mate. So the meat is kind of neither here or there. Specifically with this sandwich, the only thing that you, and to be honest, I care about is the moist maker. So I came up with a plan B, and that was, I was just gonna buy some of that deli meat or some of that like pre-roasted shredded chicken that you just sort of get in packets that I can keep in the fridge, and I get that when I was gonna make the sandwich. But then I stumbled across this. It's a butter-basted breast joint. Butter-basted breast joint. It's a butter-basted breast joint! It's part of like a meal deal that they've got going on. But it's going off today, so it was reduced to £3, and that means I'm gonna whack this in the oven when I make my dinner tonight, which is cost effective, reduces food waste, and is energy efficient. He's started to learn, and then I'll have that, leave it to rest, shred it, and that'll be my meat for my sandwich tomorrow. So what am I gonna make from scratch? Well, I'm going to make the stuffing, and I found a traditional American recipe on BBC Good Food, but it sort of matches up with a few other recipes, and the crucial part is the bread, a little farmhouse loaf. Half of this I'm gonna tear into little pieces and leave that to stale overnight, and the other half of it is gonna be the bread to make the sandwich with. Because I didn't want to have like sourdough or anything like that, which is what I usually would have to make a sandwich. I think it probably won't suck up enough of the gravy, which is part two. I'm also going to try making the gravy from scratch. And then I nipped into Aldi on the way home to pick up some cranberry sauce. It was a choice between whole and smooth. I went with smooth. I know Monica makes her own cranberry sauce, but I feel like if I wanted to get in the spirit of real American Thanksgiving, it can't bear any resemblance to real food. Okay, so last night, not only did I whack in the meat, I got a bit excited. I was feeling my oats, so I made the stuffing as well. And it was fun, but as I was making it, I did have a lot of thoughts. First things first, you take cubes of bread and then you spread them on a tray and you dry them out in the oven on a low heat. And so yeah, what we're basically gonna have here is a sandwich that already has an extra layer of bread, but it will also have bread in part of the filling. The bread industry is gonna be very happy. Big bread are ecstatic. Then you chop some onions and celery, and I cried a lot, and you melt a frankly alarming amount of butter down in the pan. America, I'm not saying this is too much butter, but I am saying I'm here when you need to talk. And once you sweat the onions and celery right down, you add in some herbs. I did sage and rosemary and thyme, and I felt so homely about it. Then you bash in the bread, you add some stock, that goes in a baking dish, and then you whisk a couple of eggs with some more stock, and then that goes on as well. Cover it with foil for a bit, put it in the oven, then you take the foil off for the last half hour, and you try really hard to not think about the cholesterol. When I took it out, honestly, oh, it smelled divine. And then I had some with my dinner, and it was magnificent. It was really quite something. So now I've got my meat, I've got my stuffing, I've got my cranberry sauce, I need the gravy. So bear with me while I get on with that, and then we'll start the assembly. I haven't decided if I'm gonna film me making the gravy, so what comes next is as much a surprise to you as me. Ew. Right, so I did try making the gravy from scratch out of the chicken jelly, which, just as a reminder, it didn't go well. Like, it is just sort of a little bit luminescent, and I don't know that the bread is gonna soak that up. I haven't made gravy from scratch in a really long time. Are you shocked? But I don't think that was quite the best method. So we've gone with Bisto. You have a little bit more control over the sort of consistency. And I've gone with thick-ish, because all the pictures of turkey gravy looks quite thick. And you want it to have a little bit of oomph. And I've sliced my loaf. I don't really know exactly how to do this, but this is the moment of truth, I guess. Let's just pour you in here, and then in you go. Oh, just sort of, and I'll leave that in there while I get on with the rest of the assembly. I didn't want to put butter on the bread. I can't be dealing with just dry bread. The sandwiches you get in the shop sometimes, which is a thin layer of bread, some sorry looking cheese and nothing else, has them out moist. A little bit of mayo, a nice sort of smear of mayo on the bottom layer. Love that. Yeah, perfect. And then we'll put the chicken, the bottom layer. There you go. Some nice chunky bits of chicken. Other things you could do with your leftover meat are stir it through some curry sauce, or just have the component parts of your dinner. If you have enough left, I sort of just put it in a baking dish and whack the whole thing in the oven on Christmas Day, or rather Boxing Day, and that's my meal for the next day. It's just as good. This is good. This is good. This has gone very well. How's it going in here? Are you happy? Now then, the moistness on this side. I don't think more mayo. We're gonna do the cranberry because it can be very overpowering, can't it? You don't want it to be too sweet. My friend Edith does not vibe with food that is sweet as well as savoury. So like applesauce with lamb, she will bite your hand off. If you even consider having a quality street before dinner, that's it, you're done for, you're dead to her. So cranberry sauce on bread for her is an absolute nightmare, but you know what she doesn't know won't hurt her. Okay, it's just bread on bread, lads. It really just is bread on bread. I suppose with other stuffing, you are sort of making it more crumb-like in consistency. But here, it is just still very much chunks of bread. It's delicious, but it's hard to look past what I'm actually doing here, which is just loading carbohydrate. Perhaps if I were running a marathon or in any way athletic, that's probably gonna do it. And now it's time for the moist maker. Right, how do we transfer in such a way that we don't get it everywhere? Oh, yeah, that looks great. Look at this. Look at that. Look, oh. On you go. Uh-oh. I think it's just gonna have to be a hug and roll. Hug. And roll. Whoa! Successful. Oh, do you see it oozing? Oh, mate. This is gonna be a nightmare. A beautiful nightmare. That's fine. Do I cut it from above or from the side? I think I'm gonna cut it from the side. There you go. There's your sandwich. A lovely healthy chunk of beige there. Bottoms up. Ah. Well, I mean, it's magic. You've got the lovely herby stuffing coming through, the chunky, hunky bits of meat there, just a hit of sweetness from the cranberry, and then, my God, moist maker, they say. They ain't lying. That was my most meaty mouthful yet. I highly support this. It is very big. So this exercise has been revelatory in many ways because now I can both understand why someone would need to throw most of it away and why that would break my spirit wholly and send me into a rage spiral. Just another example of how Ross Geller is misunderstood. My friend Terry and I are on the hunt for the best burger in London, so we've been to quite a few burger joints, and she once spoke very movingly, I thought, about the magic of putting food between bread. I can't help but think she would marvel at this. Yeah, I think I need to be left alone with my sandwich now. Happy Thanksgiving, happy beginning of the holidays, whatever you're doing, be good to yourselves and each other, and most of all, be good to your sandwiches.